Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a long time. I've just been getting slammed with work doing the PhD. Got spring break and I figured I should make another video. I've been tinkering with NeoVim, kind of just been able to relax, no deadlines, so it's fun to mess with my config. And I've been doing a lot of Racket stuff because of this book, Essentials of Computation, um, by Jeremy Seek. It's really great text. He has one in Python and one in Racket. Uh, just went through two chapters and I just have some of the code from the first chapter. And DrRacket's a great tool. When I was an undergrad for my programming language course, we had to write a compiler or an interpreter, sorry, in Racket. Did it all in DrRacket, um, but with some extra time and just because with NeoVim, you've always got to use it for everything. I decided to do a little setup. So just a quick overview. I'm using Zellij. I used it a lot when I was working as a developer, but since I moved to academia, I don't really have like a server running a bunch of different oracles or services that have to connect. So I've just been using the regular terminal. Really quick, I believe this is where the author maintains the code. Yep, Jeremy Seek. So you can get the book for free here. See some of the code samples. So just want to give reference to that. And I'll add all these links in the description. And then snacks.nvim. This is kind of like a do-it-all plugin. I use it for my splash screen. I use it for the file pickers and different types of pickers. And it really does everything. It's a great plugin. And then I'm using vim-slime. It's really simple, and that's kind of what I like about it. Then again, Zellij here. So really quick, I'll just give a short demo. So I've got some aliases, so this just creates a new Zellij instance. So if I go here, you can see it's locked. So in newer versions of Zellij, you can just lock something, which helps a lot with NeoVim so you don't get conflicting key bindings. Control G P puts me in pane, make a new pane, Alt, and then HJKL for navigation. So right here, let me just start Racket. Then here, let me open AST-RKT. So this is just a little bit of code from chapter 1. Just as I went through the chapter, of course, I had to set up my NeoVim first, so now I'm ready to move to chapter 2. So let me see here, just some examples that I can show here. So if I connect, vim-slime is a really great Zellij integration. So it's the current session, and you have right, I think down, up, and left. So I'm right. So if I just want to send a line, I've mapped these key bindings. And then one interesting binding that I showed that took a lot of trial and error is if I do Control C, Control S, it sends a S expression. So here it's going to the first one inside. So I might tweak this a little bit if I'm on the outside parenthesis, then this sends the whole thing. But just some examples of what you can do with vim-slime and certain key bindings. And then the most interesting setup that I did is sending certain key bindings that are tough to replicate. For instance, if I do this, Control C, Control L, for some reason with the Racket REPL, even when you're in it, you have to hit Control L twice. But I'm able to send Control L. I can send Control D. So some of the niceties, but then the main thing that I thought was pretty interesting is if I want to enter a file, because in DrRacket you can just load a file. I set up a little function using the snacks file picker. So here I just entered this file. So if I want to go down, and let's say I want to interpret this simple program here. So let's go to AST1. What does this guy do? Sorry, not too planned out just because I had a little bit of time and wanted to make a video. It's been way too long. All right, so read is a primitive that you define, and you're just using the read function for the little compiler language we're building. So first step's the interpreter. So we just have -8 plus whatever value we read in here. Let me go down here, and I can just send this line. Whoop, what happened with that? There we go. I think, oh yeah, it didn't hit enter after the enter racket, so I'll show the different slime commands that I'm using. So basically the command I use doesn't have control return after, or carriage return, I'm not sure which. So it didn't hit enter, so it just tried to put that in after it, but it couldn't. So here, I don't believe it hit, oh, it's just waiting for key binding. So if I put 50, 50 minus 8 is 42. I want to come back here. And then if I want to leave this file, I do, oh, sorry, the wrong one. So now I'm back in a regular REPL. And if I try to run this, it's going to say undefined. So it's just kind of a basic overview of what I was able to get working. Another alias I have just to delete some things. So Snacks, this is a Leviathan of a plugin. It does pretty much everything. So I used to use Max, and I really liked their splash screen, so I just copied it and put a little NeoVim in there. You define your sections, and you don't have to do this much config. Most of this is just straight from the README. Of course, I'm adding a little bit, setting up the Ivy layout just because I used to use Emacs, and I really like that. So for instance, we get those buffers and those previews. And then one of the things about Folk is he's just such a wizard at NeoVim, especially writing plugins. So setting these key bindings is really easy. So using some of the pickers here for LSP references, diagnostics, opening the terminal, and when I run certain commands, I always pass them to the Snacks terminal. Going down to Vim Slime. So one of the things that I did is I reset all of the key bindings. And originally I had this slime no mappings in the config, but when you're using lazy nvim, you have to put it in the init, because if you put it in the config, the plugin will already load, and it'll load all those key bindings. So this init runs before the plugin gets loaded. And then here I tested this out. It seems to be working. In my init.lua, I just have a global function map and then global ops. And what this does is it makes it a lot easier to set key bindings. I just use this function. I don't have to import anything. You can see here, this just runs slime config. And then this is how you want to send these certain, I guess, key bindings. I've tried a bunch of different ways, and this was the only way that worked for me, is to have double quotes around the whole thing, then use the command keyword here, and then your key binding, all lowercase, in single quotes, and then your carriage return, I think. And that seems to be the only way that I could get it working. I'm sure there's other ways. And then here was the little key binding that I did to send these S expressions in Lisp. And I could see that it kind of goes to the innermost, or the next inner parenthesis. So that's something I'll try to fix. But basically what it does is it hits parentheses, V, or percent, sorry, not parentheses. And then it hits the percent again to go to the end of your current parenthesis. And then it sends that region. So I might tweak it a little bit. And then here, instead of putting this in FT plugin and having a Racket specific config, because there's only a few languages I'll use Slime for, I just want it all in one place. So if I change something, it's right here. So here, Control C, Control R, this just sends Racket. So if I'm in a basic terminal, I want to start the REPL, I can send that. This is the function for leaving a file, so to kind of emulate that DrRacket feel. And then this is the one that took a lot of trial and error. And I'm not sure why I'm getting these warnings because you don't need to pass everything in. Just what you're changing or adding for this specific like picker function. So here on confirm, this is what happens when you select something from your drop-down menu. And what I was trying to do at first is pass this value to something, but then you're just passing the function. And because this happens asynchronously, if you try to get the file from it, it doesn't work unless you have it in some Vim session, because this picker just returns immediately. So if you haven't chosen something immediately, which you can't do, you'll just get a nil for your selected item. So you use this confirm parameter for files, so just in the table that files takes, and then you set it to a function with your picker and your item. So what you have to do first is you have to close the picker. If you close it after, it won't work because it'll still be running in that, I guess, mode or that file type. So you close the picker and then you check if the item exists. And then this is another thing that's a little tough, is the item has a bunch of parameters. The item isn't just the file or the string. So once you get that item, you do item.file, and then this type is any, but it's really just a string. And then here I'm doing slime send one. So slime send one, I don't know if this does the return or not. So it enters and then the file, and then it executes with nvim command. So this runs a command in the same way that this gets run up here. Sorry for using the mouse, just don't want to make too many mistakes. I promise I'm pretty good at the key bindings, but whenever I'm trying to record something, I get a little too nervous. Oh, and then this add description function. This is a little handy thing that I added as well. So basically what it does is you pass in your ops and your description, and then it uses the vim or the neovim function table extend, and you pass in force ops, and then you pass in the description you want to use. So this makes it really easy if you don't want to, have to manually set your ops and then your description, or if you already know what options you want to use, you don't have to rewrite them. So just, the don't repeat yourself principle. And I've got a bunch of key bindings like you can see here that I should probably just use add description with. So going back, one other thing that I want to touch on really quickly is the buffer number here. So one of the nice things about this, and I recently found out about it, is that if you set the buffer to buffer number that you get from nvim get current buff, when you have a certain key binding activated in something like a auto command or in a ft plugin file, that key map will only exist in that specific file. So for instance, here, if I do Control C, you can see there's none of these Racket specific key bindings. But if I were to create a temporary file, so now when I hit C, you can see I have a lot more available to me. Oops, sorry. Let me lang Racket, save this. Oh, I know why this isn't working. I haven't closed my neovim instance since making these changes, so it's completely unaware of these. So let me just go back in. So if I go down to slime and I try these Racket key bindings, you can see that it doesn't exist, nothing happens. But then if I go into my test.racket that I made right here, now I've got all of these files. But if I go back, you can see that that key binding doesn't exist anymore. So this buffer option that you pass into your key bindings, this is really nice to have. And here I could use map, but I was seeing some issues with it. I'm not sure if it was how I was writing it before, or if because it's in an auto command it needs these, it just needs to import. But I'm going to refactor, try to reduce some of the code, and that's pretty much it. A little long-winded. I'm definitely out of practice with making YouTube videos. just wanted to kind of show some of the stuff I'm playing with. I finally had a week to catch my breath a little bit, and I do miss making videos. The one thing I'd say is, I'm not making videos for subscribers or to gain any sort of, I don't know, social clout in the programming space. Just kind of messing with stuff that I find interesting. But if you guys want me to test anything out, make a video about anything, you've got any suggestions of just cool stuff that you've been playing with that I should look into, just let me know. Hope you guys liked it. If you didn't, let me know why. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right. Thank you guys.